Welcome, everybody. Here we go. It is Wednesday night. I'm Dina Hall. This is Flex, Adapt with Intent. We are contemplating performing and visual arts during uncertain times. And tonight I have some wonderful guests from right here. Actually, one of them is my neighbor, and the other one is kind of also a neighbor. Jaime Bloss is an art educator at the Bethlehem Area School District, and Lisa Harms is the Director of Education and Outreach for ArtsQuest. And here they come. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Good to see you both.
Good to see you. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. I'd get all the little tech out of the way here for a second. I'm going to adjust some levels, and I think I got it. All right, we're all good. Where are y'all? You're Jaime, you're sitting outside, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm on the porch, but in the intro it broke up just a little bit. So if it has a hard time, I'll go into the dungeon. But it just was it was a little brighter out here. So
it's bright. Yeah, it'll get dark as we go along. Lisa, hi.
Hi. Yeah. I did the opposite. I sent my son and my husband out into the yard and said, do not come back in the house until 8:30. So I am in my dining room.
Okay, well, so we got to cut off. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's cool. We typically I started this whole program as some sort of way to talk about moving the live performance, which for me was music, and moving it from live performance from the stage to the live stream, and rather than have this just could be a weekly complaining session for me, I thought I would bring in some other folks and see what their opinions are. So that expanded, and actually this whole thing was brought about because I was sitting on the front porch with your friend and mine, Amy Putlock, who's choral music teacher at Brockle Middle School. So Amy and I were sort of brainstorming about the whole thing, and she agreed to be one of the first victims of this technology, which has tonight, I think, is going to be, fingers are crossed that tonight will be flawless. And Jaime, don't ruin it.
I'm going to try. Ladies, I'm working on it. It's going to be all right.
It is going to be all right.
Riding on you, Jaime. It's all riding on you.
Yeah. So here we go. Jaime, you're teacher. You're teacher here in Bethlehem Area School District. I know you actually taught one of our kids way back when.
Yes. And little Max.
Yes, Max. When were you teaching at the time? Were you
I think maybe I was just starting. I don't know. It was when I was living with my grandmother. Yeah. It was so long ago. So I'm 15 years with the district now.
Okay. So, all right. Yeah. That's cool. Mm-hmm. When did the school year sort of end for you, sort of abruptly, and what did you have to do like in the immediate?
Yeah. So first thing we did was leave our rooms and leave clay projects out and cabinets open and sketchbooks all around. And we took a deep breath and we said, now what? So that was the middle of March sometime, right? Yeah. That we all got kicked out. And then we very quickly, so luckily I'm on a team with 9 other art teachers, the elementary art teachers. So I don't have to work singularly. So we all were able to get right together and figure out, well, what do we do now? How do we, connect with our kids? We came up with content that we thought would engage them, for the rest of the school year. And then individually with our schools, we would Zoom, with our grade levels to try to stay connected with the kids. So sometimes we would talk about art. Sometimes we would talk about stuffed animals and lost teeth. But sometimes we'd see parents and siblings. But and sometimes I would show them my artwork kind of thing, show them my studio, my kitchen studio. So yeah, we just kind of got together and tried to figure out how to get through that next, what was it, almost 10 weeks. So
okay, yeah, and we did. And so I'm just giving some folks some background on this. So Lisa, part of your job, we'll call it, with ArtsQuest is as director of outreach, but education. So you have quite a big role with Banana Factory, is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm part of the visual arts and education arm of ArtsQuest. So at the Banana Factory primarily, with exhibitions and programming and classes, and a lot around our school programming, which, this is how Jaime and I became acquainted, because we have such a strong partnership with Bethlehem Area School District and have been really grateful to have their support and allowing us to bring in teaching artists in after school programs, visiting artist residencies. So, that's the relationship is developed. I've been in the role of education director since 2016. And then a few months ago, took on some of the visual arts responsibilities as well. So we've been able to grow our programming, again, because of relationships like the one with Jaime and Dr. Silva and Amy Putlock, and all of these tremendous teachers and administrators in the district, to really identify where the needs are, because Bethlehem, I think, is unique in that there's such strong arts programming in visual and performing arts. So we really wanted to be, able to come in and figure out a way that we can augment what's already happening in the school district. So we've worked really closely with identifying what artists can come in and work with Jaime on long-term projects and things like that. And then additionally, we do programming throughout the Valley in Allentown and Easton and other districts as well. But we really spend the most time with our partners in Bethlehem and the students in Bethlehem.
So when you mentioned working with Dr. Silva, that's the assistant superintendent at Bethlehem Area School District. And, I know him personally. I've met Dr. Roy as well. And I think they're so very much dedicated and open to making sure that students' needs are met, but also that art is very, very important. The arts, performing arts, visual arts is all very important as part of their education. So one of the things that, Lisa, you mentioned going into this, we might touch on was how the arts organizations partner with the schools to elevate the youth voices amidst a crisis. And this might be a conversation that the two of you might be able to have back and forth, and I can, pop in and out if I need to, but either of you can, start that off if you like.
Well, yeah, luckily, Lisa and I get along pretty well. So it hasn't been too difficult to, when we used to be able to sit down at a coffee shop and talk through what are the ideas for how we can collaborate. And we've done residencies, after school programming. And then, Lisa, I don't know, maybe we should talk about, that Heartshine BASD project that we kind of pulled off as an example of how we adapted and sort of flexed to the situation at hand. And we were so lucky to be able to, pull that off. And, it was a beautiful example of collaboration and getting the community involved. Dina, I don't know if you saw that, but essentially it was, Lisa, do you want to talk about it?
Well, I think, you can talk about the origins with the school district.
Yeah.
And, I think it was just kind of coming into it from the organization standpoint. We were very mindful of the fact that the school districts at that point, in the middle of March, certainly had other priorities and other things that they had to work through. And we did not want to insert ourselves and say, oh, but hey, we can do all this art stuff for you. Although meanwhile, we were adapting within ArtsQuest, and I know you had my colleague Ryan Hill on as well. We started this ArtsQuest at Home initiative, and particularly with the visual arts team, we had a very new team. Many of them had come into place just days before the quarantine, and trying to pivot and adapt our programming for a virtual environment. So we were experimenting with different platforms, and that's performing arts, comedy, cinema, visual arts, and from digital exhibitions to live stream concerts, and just trying to figure out what there was an appetite for. Certainly everyone prefers in person. I mean, obviously that's what we all still want, to be engaged and social. But Jaime, with with this particular project, I think it was a really good opportunity we had been kind of figuring out what platforms worked for us and where we could support the school district. And so this seemed like a good opportunity for us to kind of come in and lift up what you guys were doing a little bit more.
Yeah. So basically, we put out sort of a call to the public to create a piece of artwork within their outdoor space or within a window, or just to take a picture of it, but it was in the shape of a heart out of anything that they wanted to. So the idea of just taking a moment to do something creative and also maybe spread a little bit of love and kindness when, things seemed pretty scary and uncertain. And then Banana Factory was more than willing to be a part of that. Oh, I hope you can't hear that big truck going by. And then they were able to use the Behance platform.
Mm-hmm.
Am I saying that right? The Behance platform to create a digital gallery of all the pieces. And people were very excited to be able to go on to the Banana Factory's website and see the artwork that they had done either individually or as a family, in sort of a celebration of our togetherness, within this unusual situation.
The idea of the heart, was that something that was original, developed by you, one of you, some of you, or was that?
So actually, yeah, it came from, do you remember the town that it came from, Lisa?
It was another city.
Yes, it was another city.
Rhode Island? Was it somewhere in Rhode Island?
In Rhode Island.
Okay.
And one of our principals, Dr. Quinones, out of Governor Wolf. Hi, Dr. Quinones, if you're out there. He had come across it and then relayed it to Angela Amelie, one of our art educators, and then she presented it to us, and we said yes. So knowing that we had the relationship with the Banana Factory with Lisa and Joanne, we knew we could pull it off. So it was an exciting thing, and if we think about other ways that we can continue to flex and work together and adapt to this, I think it's nice to know that we have these community partners so that when the students continue to make artwork, they feel like that work is just confined to their homes. That we have other outlets, other means to share their work and remind them that they're still a part of a community, even if we can't always physically be out there right now.
Sure.
So
I think one of the things that was exciting about it too is, for us, in using that platform, which, we were being, as we kind of researched and looked at what platforms we were going to be using, and many of us, sort of trying to figure this out on the go. On the fly. Behance was great because it was free, but it gave us an opportunity. One of the challenges, one of the many challenges, has been how do we showcase the work of the artists, both our student artists that are part of the after school program or just here in our community. The resident artists at the Banana Factory, we also, in addition to that, we work with, 100 teaching artists throughout the year. So how do we continue to give them exposure for what they're working on? So that has now become our go-to platform for digital exhibitions. So there were a multitude of exhibitions that were, slated to be up in our galleries throughout this spring and into the summer. And we haven't installed them, but we have the work. So, including Compendium, which Jaime, I'll give you a shout out because that's a juried exhibition that we ran this spring. And the theme this year was Chroma. So it was the Pantone Colors of the Year. And Jaime had a piece in that show. How unfortunate, and Jaime, maybe you can speak to just as an artist, in addition to an educator, but from your, how that must feel.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah,
so I had just come back out of the art closet, and it was my first piece of artwork that I had done and had accepted into the show. And
it's fantastic too.
I had bought a dress thinking that maybe there was going to be some opening.
All right, wait, I'm coming in on this. You bought a dress.
I did. I bought a dress. I was like, this is so
You
exciting.
can wear
We're going to the gallery, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, it didn't happen. But ArtsQuest was able to pull off, the digital rendition of that situation, which was great. So, that's what we have to do. We have to figure out, what are all the different ways that we can still get the artwork seen to engage the artist, to engage the community around. And that's what we're thinking about as art educators right now too, is, what are the platforms we're going to use in the fall? Are we going to switch up to something a little different? Can we partner, with other organizations in the community? Christina Hall. I think about how we can get music involved with the, digital exhibitions of the kids' work. Can we have some musical accompaniment? I don't, I mean.
And that's actually something, going into this too. So it's another, area we've had to we've had to be nimble and creative. I know that Jaime and all the educators that she works with have had to figure out how to, I keep saying pivot, and it's not necessarily, it's much more nuanced than that, but because it's not just okay, we're going to move this virtual, because not everything works in that kind of a platform. So, we're trying to figure out what are the things like a virtual tour, and that's where we're kind of moving next. Now we have another exhibition of Doug Bain's work, who's a resident artist who designed the Music Fest poster this year. And so we're trying to figure out how to do a tour. So we hung his show, but we're doing it with our iPhones. And I was like, oh, it'd be so great to have some software where we could drop in some music behind this. And you're seeing a lot of other galleries and museums do that. But it's been a great impetus for us. I've been working on grants with the team at ArtsQuest from the NEA and that are specifically to support virtual programming, because we don't know how long this is going to last. And I saw Nina commented about being in New Jersey. I think that's one of the silver linings here, is that the access, and that's a big thing. That's a big part of what we do. It is access to the art. So obviously we want the kids, especially down at the Banana Factory, we want them to know that that is for them. It's part of their community. We're open 7 days a week, under normal circumstances. It's free. And, just come in and look at, even if you don't take a class, just come in and check out the art, meet the artists in the studios. But, we are limited by who can make it to the Banana Factory. And so, even on the other side of this, whenever that is, we're going to continue to have virtual exhibitions. We're going to continue to do tours and have artist talks and curatorial talks that are available online. So, if it would have been a tremendous to see Jamie's, piece in person and her coming in her brand new dress. But in lieu of that, to be able to do that virtually, and perhaps we got more eyes on it that way. And on the other side, maybe people will make the trip in and come visit us in Bethlehem and all the other wonderful things that we have to offer.
So we've had quite a few comments here, and that's great. That Nina Iglesias is my friend from family friend from New Jersey. She's a elementary. She's taking a new job this year, I do believe. She loved
congratulations!
Yeah, she was very exciting for her. Julia's commenting that it was a wonderful dress.
That's my friend Julie.
Thanks,
Julie.
There was a fact checking.
I've got a couple of dresses in the closet upstairs that I haven't. I could just wear. We could just do a little parade down.
That would be
here.
great. Up and down the street
with matching masks. I'd love it.
Yeah. All right. I actually have my wedding dress from 1982. So
nice.
But I only wear that on Halloween. So Amy is watching, and Amy Putlock, she would like to know, are there aspects of virtual learning on art exhibition that you are excited to explore now that we've been sort of forced in this direction?
Yeah, so that's a good question. For sure, we know on our end that what we provide, I think we've got 4 weeks to pull it together, by the way. What we provide, we want it to be even more engaging, than what the first round was. So what does that look like for us? We have trainings on all these digital platforms. I got trained on Flipgrid and or Screencastify. And then actually, you guys may know Tiffany Anderson, the great Tiffany Anderson. She just put together a beautiful Google Slides virtual classroom that has like Bitmojis of the teachers and little things that are clickable within what looks like a classroom. And so then that started to give me some hope, like, oh, we can create something that is much more visually engaging for the kids. And allows them to explore, teach, concrete concepts. And then maybe even through Flipgrid, be able to have the kids like the littles, like K1 and 2, you know, like how do they respond? Well, with a click of a button, they can hold up their piece of artwork and it records them for them. So exploring some of these new platforms and thinking like, okay, maybe there's a potential for doing things a little differently, and maybe it can be better. So
yeah, and I mean, I think, you know, and this kind of goes back to you know, talking about creating a space for youth voice and cultivating an affinity for the arts, and to really have you know, skin in the game essentially. And I think that that's one of the things that we've been working on, you know, particularly in the last couple of years at ArtsQuest with our education programming. And we do have a new, she started in February, but all time is meaningless anymore. But Joanne Garcia is our new education coordinator coming to us from the Allentown School District. And, you know, we've been talking a lot about, you know, the access issue and the fact that like we can have more people hopefully logging on. I mean, there's obviously a lot of issues there too, in terms of kids' access to technology and the digital divide. But for when we're able to connect and have kids actually create and curate the content that we're putting out there, I think, you know, particularly for older kids, I think that, you know, for, you know, our programming at Banana Factory, you know, middle school is very strong for us. That's most of our after school programming. You know, elementary, we do a lot with elementary as well. But, you know, high school programming for us, you know, we have a lot of performing arts things. We have the High School Jazz Band Showcase and Marketing Music Fest, which is a class that we run at Freedom and Liberty. But, you know, how do we get kids to get excited about an exhibition or meeting an artist? Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's letting them, particularly in the state of the world right now, and because I think we've seen that youth are engaged and are very interested in world events, and it affects them. So art is just the absolute way that, you know, we can showcase that, and kids can have that voice, and whether that is music or spoken word or visual arts. So I think that these platforms hopefully will allow us to do that without the complications necessarily of getting buses or, you know, getting an artist to come into a school, which we would obviously still continue to do that. But I think the time is really nigh for us to continue to build on that and make sure that it's not prescriptive in the way we do our arts programming, that it's not us saying, oh, this is this thing, we created this opportunity for you. And really empowering them and saying, what do you want to bring to the table? What do you want to see? Which artist do you want to see? And what kind of experience do you want to have with that artist?
There's a comment from Julie. Julie. I teach independent living skills to persons with disabilities, and Jaime has been instrumental in helping me format online lessons. She is super knowledgeable about distance learning.
Well, I've been thrown into it, so we gotta make the best of it. So yeah, and then Lisa, of course, we have, you know, thoughts about any given child, and, you know, wanting to continue to try to get the artists in front of the students, even if we can't physically come in, you know, and thinking through what that's going to look like. To maybe do that virtual, you know, gallery, not gallery, you know, studio tour. Right. Maybe kind of like a Bob Ross paint along, you know, where they're in their studio and we're doing our best in the classroom to kind of do what they're doing. I know that the kids, they really love Bob Ross. So
he transcends generations. It's amazing. He does.
You know, Jaime and I were chatting one day. I went out for a walk and she was outside, and we were talking quickly about this upcoming episode, and someone had brought something up earlier in the day, and it reminded me of I might have been 11, 12 years old. I would come home from school, or maybe on a rainy day or a Saturday. I'm definitely an introvert. This is not the human being that was, you know, growing up in the 70s or the 80s, or even the 90s for that matter. So, but I would come home from school and I had an easel set up in my bedroom. Most of it was paint by number. I would dabble in oil paint, but most of it was paint by number at the time. And that's okay. You know, I knew how to count to, you know, like 56, but the point is I would turn on, and please, I mean, somebody's going to laugh, but I know most of you are going to identify with this. I would put my records on and I would turn on Karen Carpenter and just sing my heart out for
Yep.
hours and
Mhm,
hours and
mhm.
paint. And then I moved over to copying, just drawing the cartoons from the newspaper, Beetle Bailey and Charlie Brown and whoever it might be that I felt I could. But those were hours and hours
Mhm,
of alone
mhm.
time.
Because you had gotten lost in the flow, right?
It
So
was
you
the
were like
mu- yeah, it
completely
was
in
like
that flow state,
total
and
zen.
music was a part of that. So, I'm sure that there's ways that we can figure out how to help the kids recreate that at home. Help them understand the importance of that, especially in times of stress, to know that the arts are a place where the kids can go. They can turn on music, they can start to draw, they can imagine cool photography with their Chromebooks, or whatever it is. But to help them to get through still what's going to be periods of isolation and distance from their peers and stress at home. It's all the more we just need to make sure that they realize their creative potential and that they have the tools at home to do those things. Pizza
Do you
boxes,
find,
whatever.
do either of you find that, and maybe this has is relatable on different age levels, but do you find that the students, the children, young adults, I call them young adults, they're still youth, but are they really expressing some of the trauma that they might be feeling? I mean, we talk about the annoyance of a lot of this, but there's an exhausting trauma that I think we're all feeling inside that we're not really able to express um, appropriately. Do you think it's coming through in the art?
I mean, I think so. And Jamie's can speak to this more so than I. The only experience we've had, directly with kids during, with this, would not be going through the school, has been the summer camp program. We've run a virtual summer camp program, which, kind of just going back to the experiences, it was very important for us to maintain that social element and have our teaching artists on with the kids and talking with them. And sometimes they were making art and sometimes they were just chatting and playing a game together. And, it's hard to know, but certainly things would come up. You would hear certain indicators that, there were things going on, things that were on kids' minds. I know as a parent, my 9-year-old, there's certainly questions that have come up about, not just the pandemic, but just, again, things happening in the world and being curious about that. And, I think kids who, some kids are going to tell you and express it and some kids won't. And so I think the art is obviously a great outlet for that, but it's a much bigger, deeper issue here, which JB, again, you have more experience directly.
Well, yeah, it's an important question that you brought up, Dina, and as we design what the fall or into the year looks like, are we going to provide prompts for the kids that would allow them to express that sort of thing? Because normally they're sitting at a table with 5 other kids in the classroom. And so, they're doing their artwork, but then they're talking about those things. And since we don't have that right now, it's all the more important, that we're cognizant of that when we're, developing these lessons or providing these opportunities, that the kids know that they can put that personal voice into their work. I mean, I'm thinking through like a still life lesson, but even with something like that, with the kids' abilities to narrate when they then hold up their work, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for like artist statement sort of thing, which maybe wouldn't have happened in the classroom because it just would have been like, let's do the artwork and hang it up. But if they're able to use something like Flipgrid, hold up their artwork, show it, and create a statement about it, we might see a lot more connections to some of the bigger issues that are going on right now. So
it's kind of a perfect storm for all of that. I mean, we're home, all of us with our own personal struggles, family struggles, and all of that. But then there's this incredible worldwide and just nationally here in our own country. Yeah. Amy has another question, and I think this is directed to both of you. How have you personally been turning to the arts to help you through all this?
You go first, Jamie.
Well, when we were home, I was really grateful that I needed to now make videos of my artwork to show, content or, technique. And yes, I noticed that on the days where I didn't take a minute, to do something creative, I was in a weird headspace. I had a different energy level. And, the minute that I just did something simple, drew something, it put me in a better place. And so this summer I have done less, certainly. Although I did take a class. I did make a lot of stuff this summer. I did. I
did get another degree, though.
Wait a second.
Pretty chill.
I do have a PhD in fibers now. I don't. I'm just kidding. So the answer is yes, Amy. Yeah. And for sure, turning on some music on a Sunday night to unwind from a unruly weekend is always helpful.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's two things. One is I have kind of leaned in on all the things that are being offered virtually through museums that I can't get to right now, like whether they're in the US or international. So some of it is, research for work. I consider like if I'm, looking at watching an artist talk, but, just last night I was, watching an artist talk and the artist was in Kenya and she was talking about her work. And like, that's not obviously something in person I'd be able to take advantage of. So I find that very soothing and also inspiring about like the, the relevance of what we do. And then just personally, like I am not a great singer, but I do love to sing. And so I sing constantly now and my husband and my son are not thrilled. Although my son, I think I've turned him into the biggest like Lizzo, Lady Gaga fan, like since this, because it's now my husband's back at work. It's just my son and myself. And we walk around singing Lady Gaga all day long, and it's absolutely fantastic. So that's the best thing that's happened out of quarantine.
See, so Dina, see how we both said something about music?
Yeah, I know. I heard.
We have to collaborate with you somehow and the kids.
Yes, and so I'm going to say something about art in that, like, I this goes to what you were talking about, Jamie, in the beginning of your answer, is that I have days myself that are so. Today, for example, I did a lot. I was very productive. It was all really just like work, like little things that I had to check off the list. And I did this. But over the course of since March until now, Gail and I both here at home have created so many. I built this studio here behind me, put together this studio. I'm going to take the two of you out of here just for a second. So there's this barn board behind me, and in this room, this is out in my garage. Every time I would go to do a live stream, mostly it was for performance, I had to set up all the lights. I had to set up the devices. I had to get the microphone ready. I had to bring the amp into the room that had the most light. And it really became a real pain in the neck every single time. And it was a disruption to the house. So I think this space here was the first, opening into that creative process. But since then, we are building things out in the yard and painting things and staining and just making everything beautiful again. And sometimes there's music playing, but not always. But not always. So bringing those things together, it's just so natural.
Yeah.
It is natural.
Yeah, I like that because we all are creators and we create in different ways. And you're creating a space, right, for your creative appetite. So,
but those days that I'm not doing something like that are really quite emotionally dreadful. Yeah, I'm sure other people are they're really feeling the same thing. I do have a question about reaching students in families where it's really challenging because, maybe they live in very small living spaces, small homes. Maybe there's multi-generational situations with, families, which, in my growing up, having a lot of people in the house was always exciting and wonderful. But I think if you're trying to learn, it might be a difficult situation. But are you able to get the technology itself into the hands of the students who want it and need it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the big challenge for sure. And I know that, I mean, the principals would speak best to how all of that was handled, but I know the district was doing its very best to get everybody with a Chromebook. And now that we're going back into the fall, everybody has a Chromebook. Does it need to be updated? Is there issues with it? Who doesn't have one? Are people transient back and forth with it? But that's the number one challenge, because if we go back in and then we decide maybe we can't stay in, we need to make sure that there is that equity component to everything. And, I know that principals and some teachers were driving around, getting things personally delivered to people, helping them get logged in and set up, when they needed to. So there's definitely, from what I understand, the pressure there, to make sure that gets done, because otherwise we'll lose them. We'll lose the kids. There'll be no connection.
Yeah. And I think, the technology itself and the devices, I think the schools have done a tremendous job of trying to get a Chromebook in everybody's hands. There's obviously issues with Wi-Fi access, digital literacy. I mean, my background's actually in art librarianship. So that, piece to me, I understand. I mean, I was helping my son with, third grade. And at that point, we were using multiple platforms. And I know going into the fall, things are going to be more streamlined. But, sometimes you have the access, you have the Wi-Fi, you have the technology, you have the device. But navigating different sites and figuring out, I remember times where, my son might be getting things wrong because he was clicking in the wrong place, and I'm with him. And so, kids that, parents are, working on the front lines or, working multiple jobs right now and are not able to be on top of it. That's a big challenge too, is the digital literacy piece of it. Because we can't assume that whether it's an issue of access, or if it's just kids learn in different ways. And some kids are not the ones that are going to be super savvy right away with the technology. And they're the ones that are, want the tactile, and they want the social. And so I think there's a lot of issues. I think the schools have done an amazing job though of adapting and trying to seeing teachers and principals, have one-on-one time with the kids and the parents, is important, but it's a much deeper, bigger issue of equity that needs to be addressed, obviously. So, and I think that transcends, this pandemic. It's just that it's shining a light on it, but it is a problem that is systemic. And, there are many other problems associated with that, that come from that same kind of root problem.
Yeah. Were you able to continue any of your camps in a virtual setting?
Yeah. So we ran, we have our after school program, which we did in the spring, which is called ArtSmart, which is at the Banana Factory. And that's the big appeal of it, is that, kids are coming into the Banana Factory and they're working with the artists, and they're in the galleries and the hot glass shop. But we did, create a virtual experience for that. And, again, we were mindful of the fact that like kids are online now all day doing their learning, and they may not want to log in again at 4:00 and do a hands-on weaving workshop, but we put it out there as an opportunity for our camps. We again, that's a big program for us at the Banana Factory in the summer with K through 18 or 4 through 18. And we did create a virtual camp experience that I know Jamie's daughter participated in, and whereas I could not get my son to participate, he had no interest. But he's just also like he likes to write and perform, and he doesn't really, want to sit there and work with model magic. But anyway, but that being said, I think that we've engaged several hundred kids now through that program over the summer. And that was a complete, we had an entire camp program built and developed and in person, and we just took that and completely turned it on its head. But we're very grateful for, again, our connections with the school district to kind of give us feedback. And we were able to figure out what platform that we could use because of the schools we use something called EduFlow, but we had looked at Google Classroom and Dojo and all these other platforms that because of our relationships with the schools, we were able to kind of survey. I know Tiffany Anderson, who we talked about earlier, gave us some feedback too. So we were able to see what worked. But the goal there was to not just provide the tutorials, but getting kids, the theme was around the world. So we tried to teach kids about the culture and really make them feel comfortable with that virtual environment and giving an opportunity to socialize with their campers. But we had outdoor activities, we had dance parties, I did story time with the kids. So we tried to make it a really full experience. But it's still, like Jamie knows, nothing beats being in the classroom, obviously. I mean, nothing compares with that. So you try what you can, but especially with camp, I feel like, kids really want it and should be getting outside, but it's hard to be like, now sit in front of this computer for 3 hours and make this thing.
So can you do you have any plans for, and again, this is all contingent on the way school is going to proceed, but even between now and then, or maybe into the school year, you just mentioned, outside, is there any way to, I don't know, put together any kind of programs, even if they're just a one day or whatever, where it would be outdoors and
so
in a safe environment?
We just started building some in-person classes that are on sale. We are trying to do more outside. So, not just at the Banana Factory, but looking down across our campus, the Levitt Lawn, like we talked about doing a Bob Ross paint-along again. And we're in partnership. We're talking with a few other partners who run programming, sort of more event style visual arts programming that we can, make use of our full campus. So we have a higher capacity. But certainly I think there's an appetite for like a creative family workshops. That's something that we're doing more of. We have a couple of those coming up where, we feel like parents might be more comfortable if they're with their kids and they can just kind of make sure they keep their masks on. And we've put all of our safety and health precautions in place for those, for our artists and for our students. So we are starting to slowly roll those out. Obviously, we're doing some other in-person programming at ArtsQuest, and we have virtual music fest coming up starting this Friday. But we're trying to learn from what's happening with performing arts and the experiences they're having, and use that information to kind of guide us. Plus, we're looking at other places, Goggle Works in Reading, the Art Establishment, other places that are starting to do some in-person, and just trying to test the waters out. But really being like, we don't feel the need, like we need to roll out all this stuff right now. So but starting slowly to do those things.
Yeah. And going back, in 4 weeks, we're definitely thinking about how to engage our outdoor spaces. I mean, we're still going to have 6 classes a day at 45 minutes. And get them out if we can, and, what's the best way we can do that? We do have some schools in the district have outdoor classrooms. So, that might be an easy setup for them. Some don't have a great place to take the kids outside, that they're not going to be sitting on like super hot macadam or something, But it is an opportunity to figure out some creative solutions with the parameters that we have, with not being able to share things or, obviously be close, but to get them out would be huge. So it's on our minds. So we'll see how we can pull it off.
Wow. It's all been so fascinating. There's so many things that, sitting at home, the armchair quarterback, you don't really know enough but once you start talking about it all, the questions really they show themselves. Oh my goodness. So I think we've covered a whole lot. Is there anything that either of you wanted to touch on before we sort of wrap things up?
Well,
We've got a
like
question.
when are we going to get together again, ladies?
Yeah, that too.
Right.
I have a question here for Lisa. Is the Banana Factory geared more toward older children? I'm the art teacher for 22 pre-K classrooms.
Wow.
And I will have to go into the classrooms. I was given the opportunity to go outside, though, which is awesome.
Wow.
So
22 pre-K.
yeah, that's wow. So yeah, the Banana Factory is a community art center. So we really reach all the way early childhood. We have, parent and child or guardian and child programs that are, from story time to art making to music. We have a music therapist that we work with for some of those programs, all the way up through creative aging programs, which are for older adults with memory loss. So we really kind of try to have programming at every level. We have 30 artist studios. We have 30 resident artists that are in the building. They exhibit with us, teach with us. They're normally under normal circumstances on first Fridays, they're in their studios. And, the goal is to have them engaging with the public and hopefully, getting support and selling their work there as well. We have about 30 to 40 exhibitions annually in our gallery spaces there. And then we have classrooms, and we also have a hot shop where we do glass blowing. So we have tuition classes for all ages. You can just pop in and walk around and check out the art, meet the artist. That's, when this is over. And then we do a lot of youth programming with our school partners, and then also with our summer camp program, which is again ages 4 to 18. So we like to think there's something there for everybody. We're constantly evolving and changing and trying to figure out what we can offer, how we can serve the community. And I think that's the main goal, and why relationships like with Jaime and our other community partners and our school partners are so important, because we don't want to do things that we think this is going to be great, everyone's going to love, this is perfect for the community. We really value that input, whether it's an artist that we're exhibiting or a class that we're offering. So that's kind of the goal, but also why these conversations are so important too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'll make sure we get Nina to visit Banana Factory in the future when the time is
For now, arrived. You can check out the online exhibitions at the Banana Factory website. But definitely when we're open again.
Wow. All right. I got to say thank you to all those who have offered their questions. Nina, Amy, Stacy, Julie. And that's that. The 4 of them. How wonderful. Thanks, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Harms, director.
Thanks for having us.
Totally.
I got to get your titles correct. Lisa Harms is the director of education and outreach at ArtsQuest.
She has a fancy title.
She does.
She's so fancy.
Yes, but yours is longer, Jaime. Yours is Jaime Bloss, art educator, Spring Garden Elementary School at Bethlehem Area School District. So you just blow it all right out of the water.
That's like 3 lines.
Yeah, totally.
Signature.
Let's just abbreviate all of that.
So at the end of every broadcast, I make sure that we all give each other a high five. However, Jaime, you're in the center, so you're going to have. It's easiest for you because you just put up 2 hands. Look, see, it's not that easy.
It's not.
It's not. And so you have to cross your face.
There we go.
What is wrong with me?
Boom! It's terrible.
I did it this way.
Hey,
Lisa, are you there?
It's awful. It's like a backwards mirror. See,
I can't do it. I can't.
Wow, this just looks like we're like voguing.
So Amy Potluck told me I should give everybody a heads up, like to know this, but I'm not going to. This is how we end every broadcast, all right?
That's awesome.
We'll do a thumbs up.
We did it. All right. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you, Dina.
And I'll see you on the block.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Lisa.
Bye, Jaime.
All right. See you soon.
I'll see y'all. All right. And just to let you know what's coming up in the next few weeks, August 5th, I have Daniel Faga. He's the production manager and technical director at Sellersville Theater. And he has been through a long process. He has something called the Sound Booth Sessions from Sellersville Theater for, where he does something similar to this, in that he's bringing in artists to actually play music over live stream, but he's having a conversation with them at the same time. And after that, on August 12th, Chris Matthews, she's a neo-folk songwriter and recording artist, and that's going to be in advance of Lehigh Valley Pride, the virtual Pride Festival. 8/19, Mike Nelson, the Senior Director of Marketing at Martin Guitar, and he is producing a live stream series called Jam in Place. And that's ongoing, and it's really an outlet, I think, for typically that's a singer-songwriter platform, the live stream thing like that. So these are folks that you might not have ever heard or seen before. And then September 9th, Aaron Alkasov and Janir Hankerson, stand-up and improv comedy from the Lehigh Valley. We'll find out more about those. So information is also available on my website, dinahall.com. And I have had a lovely evening with all of you. And be kind to each other, because that's about all we got right now. And I'll talk with you next time.